How are you all?
Fine.
Okay, so have you all read the materials yesterday? What we learned? At least, did you people go through, or did you go through your notes? What you people have revised yesterday? Anyway, let's have a quick recap and then move on to the today's portions. Are you people able to see what I'm sharing?
Yes, miss.
Okay, fine. So in the last class, what we discussed was about the classical approach. In that classical approach
Amarnath,
itself, we had
Amarnath കേറാൻ പറ്റും.
three subdivisions. Amarnath. I'll just look at. So moving on with this. Yesterday, what we all discussed was about the classical approach. And in that classical approach itself, we had been discussing about the
Scientific.
scientific management approach. And from the scientific management, yeah, from the scientific management approach, we were discussing about the F.W. Taylor's contribution to scientific management. And what we learned was that the contributions by F.W. Taylor is generally described in two ways. That is the main features and the principles of scientific management. So main features we have already discussed. Now today we'll be discussing with the principles of the scientific management. So moving with the principles of the scientific management, the first principle, what he says is that replacing the rule of thumb with science. Replacing the rule of thumb with science, we can say that the scientific management mainly focused on the scientific aspect. The thing is that the art aspect was not being considered or what was not being given much more importance. But the science factor was considered more prominently. So, what he says is that in the scientific management, organized knowledge should be applied, which will replace the rule of thumb. Rule of thumb he means by the uh, what the skill factor, the art factor. Okay, so then what he says is that the scientific method also denotes precision. As we had discussed in the earlier chapters, the scientific theory or the scientific aspect always denotes the facts, the accurateness, the precision, and all. So, what he suggests is that while applying management or while undertaking management, the scientific approach have to be undertaken rather than the art aspect. That's what he means by the replacing the rule of thumb with science. Then the second is that harmony in group action. What does he mean by harmony in group action? Here he means that there should be a coordination or there should be no discord between the management and as well as the workers of the organization. What he suggests over here is that there should be mutual give and take situation within the organization. Only then the harmony can be established. If there is no harmony, then the output cannot be achieved. So everyone should work for the whole of the organization and the conflicts and the discord should be avoided. That's what harmony in group action means. Then what he says is that cooperation. Cooperation is in the sense that it is almost similar to harmony. Cooperation means the thing is that to cooperate with each other rather than individualism. We should cooperate with each other and work for the goal of the organization rather than saying that my individual goal have to be fulfilled. That should not be there, but instead cooperate with each and other individual, with the co-workers and also with the management, and then work for the cooperate and work for the achievement of goal of the organization. That's what cooperation is. Only cooperation is there, then harmony can be achieved. Then the thing is about the maximum output. This maximum output means that the continuous increase in the production of productivity. Production should be increased and also the productivity of the organization should also be increased. It also means the increase in the productivity of workers. It means that they should be motivated to increase the production of the organization. Only then the maximum output can be achieved. That's what the other principles of management is about. Then on-the-job training and also the skill development program have to be undertaken. Only then the development of workers will be undertaken. If the workers are developed, then the maximum output can be. So, according to F.W. Taylor, what he says is that there are many five important principles of scientific management. First, replacing the role of thumb with science, which means that science have to be given more importance rather than harmony should be there. The thing is that discord should be avoided, conflict should be avoided, harmony should be avoided. Then cooperation should be there. Each should cooperate with each other and work for the organization's goal rather than the individualism. Then maximum output should be achieved by the worker, which means that the production as well as productivity to be increased. Then the thing is that development of the workers, which means that training and developing the skills of the workers. So this is what about the principles of management is about. Then the thing is, apart from F.W. Taylor, who contributed to scientific management was Gilbert. Okay. This we can say that this when we say talk about Gilbert, we have two personalities. That is a couple. That is Frank Gilbert and the Lillian Gilbert. They both were husband and wife team, and they too brought many changes or significant contribution to scientific management. So what their study was mainly is about the things that they generally or mainly focus on avoiding unwanted movements in the organization. It was moreover related to the motion study. So for this purpose, what they did was that they used the help of a motion picture camera. Okay, the cameras they used and also the lights and the clock were calibrated. And with this, the employees or the workers' motion were being shot and then analyzed and then studied. So on shooting using with the motion camera, what they tried to find out was the economical motions, which means that all the necessary motions which are required to complete a task and also to avoid unnecessary motion. The thing is that there are some unwanted motions. The thing is that, for example, the thing is that if a person could take two bricks at a time and move to the other place, sometimes they might take one brick, keep to the other place, and again go to the uh, uh, initial position, then take that brick again, go to the final position and keep that brick. So the twice that same movement is being done instead of doing it for the one time. So such kind of unwanted motions can be removed with the help of this study. So that's what Gilbert, both the Frank Gilbert and the Lillian Gilbert, this is what they focused on. And on doing so, what they did is that they had developed 17 basic motions, which they called as terblics. So they call this which 17 motions which are necessary for the management. So to do a work or complete a task, they did define or develop 17 important motions. And these 17 important motions They called it as the Blix. Okay. Then what we can say about them is that to them the ultimate aim of scientific management was to help workers reach their full potential as human beings. That's what their main aim was, which meant that to avoid unnecessary movement and also to give them the necessary rest or the recess or the break which are required so that they can work to their full potential and also improve their skills for their work. So this is what the ultimate aim of scientific management was. So this is what Gilbert's contribution is about. So when we talk about scientific management, we have two eminent personalities that we are discussing about. The first is the F.W. Taylor's, and he is known as the father of scientific management. And under his means or his contribution, we studied in two main parts. That is, first is the features of scientific management, and the second is the principles of scientific management. Then the other person who contributed to scientific management is Gilbert. They are a husband and wife couple. So their contribution is that they studied the motion and they analyzed it and they help to understand what are the necessary motions and what are the unnecessary motions. And also they listed the 17 basic motions which are necessary for the management, which they called it as turblicks. So this is what about the contributions made by the two eminent personalities to scientific management is. Now here we'll move on to the benefits and the weakness of scientific management. Here, which is on your left side with the tick marks are the benefits, and which is onto your right side with the cross mark are your weakness. So first discussing about the benefits of scientific management. The first benefit is that benefit of division of labor. What does it mean? The benefit of division of labor. What does it mean? Any idea? So the division of labor.
Categorizing them.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, a particular person will be doing a particular job, almost related with the specialization. So the thing is that here he meant by the specialization, which means that those people who are specialized to do a certain job will be doing that job. That's what the first benefit of scientific management is. Since scientific management has adopted specialization or the functional foremanship, we can say that there is a benefit of division of labor. Then the second is that reduction on the cost of production. Cost of production can be reduced. Why is that? Since scientific management use more of science and technology, cost of production can be reduced eventually. That's what it means. Then it is that the better quality of products. The quality of products is that since they are using scientific methods, this scientific standardization is there, then effective control by the managers, the skilled managers are controlling it. So due to all these reasons, the better quality products are being made available or produced for the market. Then the fourth benefit is that the provision of better working condition. Here they say that there is provision for better working conditions since the thing is that they do study what are the necessary motions, what are the unnecessary motions. They avoid unnecessary motions and also they give enough rest, isn't it? The break and all are given. The fatigue study is also being undertaken. So, due to this reason, the provision of better working condition is there, and also they say that the financial benefits have to be given. So, for those who work more, more money will be given, more salary or the more wages will be paid. So, there is always a provision for better working condition. Then the thing is that proper methods of selection and training of workers. Here, what they say is that One of the main principle of scientific management is that the selection and training of workers. We have already studied uh, in F.W. Taylor's main features of scientific management, the selection and training of workers, isn't it? So what they say is that the scientific management always select the trained, the skilled people, and also the selection processes in a scientific way, and also these people are being provided on the job training as well. So this is also a benefit of scientific management. Then the thing is that increased wages for efficient workers. Here they mean is that those workers who are able to produce more, who are efficient, they are being paid more. So it is like a motivation, isn't it? So it is a benefit to scientific management. Then the thing is that lesser production time. Why lesser production time is that scientific management use more of the machinery, the scientific methods are being used, so the lesser production time. Then the thing is that better utilization of resources. In the case of better utilization of resources, the thing is that since skilled managers are being appointed and also the workers are skilled, the thing is that they will understand what are the resources, how to use it, and how to use the machineries, how to use the materials, the equipments, how to use, what all money, what how much money to be incurred, how much to be saved. All this they do know, isn't it? So the utilization of resources are being at its maximum since there is efficiency, and the focus is that it removes the wastage and also inefficiency of every kind. Whatever inefficiency is there, that is being removed, and also whatever wastages are there, that are being maximum avoided. So this is what the benefits of scientific management are. But there are some weakness too. Coming to the weakness that is on your right side, the first is about the exploitation of workers. We did say that there is better working condition, but at the same time, what we can say is that there is some sort of exploitation of workers. Exploitation of workers in the sense that scientific management sometimes try to put unnecessary pressure on the employees to perform the work faster and also to improve it. And so, in that case or in that situation, there is exploitation of workers, and also in the case of scientific management, the importance is always given to productivity, the profitability, the increased production, and all. So, in this situation, also workers are being exploited. They are being asked to work more. So, in this case, it is a disadvantage of business of scientific management. Then the thing is that problem of unity of command. Unity of command, you people not be much familiar with, but you must have heard a similar usage. The thing is that the functional foremanship. What is it about? The thing is that when functional foremanship is there, functional foremanship is in the sense that specialization, isn't it? When the specialization is there, this principle of unity of command will be broken. Unity of command is in the sense that one person will receive commands from only one boss or one head. That's what the unity of command is about. So the thing is that if there is a department, if production department is there, the thing is that he will receive the means a person working in the production department will receive commands or orders from the head of the production department only. But in the case of scientific management, what it happens is that when the functional foremanship is being established, what happens is that skilled person will be giving them orders. So the thing is that whoever skilled people are there, they all will be giving the subordinates orders. So how to do it, what to do it, and all. So they will be giving means getting orders from many heads. So in this situation, what happens is that the unity of command is being broken. So this is what a weakness of scientific management is. Is that clear? That unity of command, is that concept clear? Anyone who will respond?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fine. Then the thing is that the mechanical approach. Why mechanical approach is that scientific management always give importance to efficiency, and the thing is that there is least consideration for the human element. The thing is that the art factor is not at all being considered, isn't it? It is not just the science that will help in management, but art is also there that you people have already done, isn't it? So the thing is that only mechanical approach is there. The art factor is not at all being considered. The human elements are not at all being considered. So this is a disadvantage or weakness of scientific management. Then the thing is about the wrong assumptions. Coming to the wrong assumptions, what here we can say is that Taylor assumed that the workers are motivated by financial gains only. The thing is that he said that if the workers are paid more, they will be motivated. But it is not just that only higher payment will motivate them. There are organizations that provide sometimes yearly tour is there. Sometimes a family package will be offered to some other countries and all. That is also a kind of motivation, which means that they are given a leisure time. Sometimes they might be, the thing is that a month of holiday will be provided to the workers. That is also a kind of motivation. So there are different ways that they can motivate an employee. So that is what one wrong assumption is about. So that wrong assumption about the only financial gains can motivate the employees, that is wrong. That is also a weakness to scientific management. Then the thing is that it is a narrow application. Narrow application in the sense that in this present world, it is not at all possible to apply. The thing is that it is not just the production oriented businesses being taken place. The thing is that only production oriented firms, only production oriented businesses are means not the only thing that exists in the world. There are service-oriented organizations as well, isn't it? This banking sector and all the thing is that they are service-oriented. So this is scientific management is mostly applicable only for the production-oriented. For the industry, in the case of that involves more of machineries and all. But what happens to the case of the service-oriented, for that the bank, the education institutions and all. So in those cases, the scientific management means fall short for them. So it has a narrow application. So these are the benefits and weakness of scientific management. Hope it is clear to you. And while I am explaining, please people do take down the notes so that it will be helpful for your further reference as well. Okay. Now the thing is that we are moving on to the administrative management. Under the classical approach, we had three subdivisions, isn't it? What were they? First is the scientific, second is the administrative, and third is the bureaucracy. So we have done with the scientific management. The two eminent personalities who contributed to scientific management, we have done, we have completed it. Now moving on to the administrative management. Now here, the person who contributed, or there is only one person who have contributed to the administrative management, that is Henry Fayol. So, talking about Henry Fayol, we can say that he is the father of modern management theory. Okay, so what more we can say is that he generally or mainly focused on the total organization rather than the productivity of individual worker. In the case of scientific management, what happened was that the productivity of the organization, productivity of individual worker was only being focused. But here in the case of administrative management, what is that the total organization, the administration of the total organization is being considered. So this concept was being laid by Henry Fayol, and he is known as the father of modern management theory. Okay, the F.W. Taylor, he was known as the father of scientific management. Here, Henry Fayol is known as the father of modern management theory. And what we can say is that he strongly felt that the manager should be guided by certain principles. And also, the thing is that he developed the principles of management. This is very important. The principles of management, it's not just a classical approach. Still, in the modern approach, the principles of management is being followed. So, do listen to it thoroughly. Okay, so now moving on to it, contributions of Henry Fire. So he used the term administration instead of management. So instead of management, what he uses that administration. That's why it is called as the administration or administrative approach to manage. Then the thing is that he had observed that there are certain activities that all the industrial organization should have or uh, exist within an organization. So the thing is that he observed that the activities of an industrial organization could be divided into six groups. So whenever there is an industrial organization, he understood or analyzed that there are six uh, activities that an organization can be divided into. So those six activities, what it tells about is, first is the technical in the sense that it is production related. Second is the commercial in the sense that commercial activities it's related to the buying and selling, then exchanging. That's what commercial activities. Then the thing is that financial in the sense it is related with money. That is the capital, the optimum use of the capital, where to invest it, how to means bank related activities. All this comes under financial. Then coming to the security. Security is about the protection of the property and the person. So the land will be secured. The security in terms of personal security is also there. So then insurance, all will come under this security. Then accounting. Accounting, as you people know, it is related with balance sheet, statistics, then stock market. Everything will come under the accounting. Then the thing is that managerial. Managerial, we can say that as you have learned, that is planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. That is what the managerial activities are. So these are the six different activities that you can find in an industrial organization, in every industrial organization, according to Henry Fire. Okay. Now, what is that? His approach, that is, his administrative approach, has been divided into three parts. First is the managerial qualities and training. Second is the general principles of management. And third is the elements of management. So, talking about the managerial qualities and training. What are the managerial qualities? If a manager is there, a manager should possess what all qualities? That is being given by Henry Fire. So what he says is that the first is the physical. A manager should have some physical quality. The thing is that first is health, then vigor and address. Vigor and address, he says that it's about the vigorousness. So that's what vigorous, how to say in what in Malayalam, I don't know. But still, physically, he should be healthy and also be able to take up all the activities. That's what they mean. It is not that he is very much unhealthy, he cannot do any kind of job. That kind of person is never good for a manager position. That's what the physical quality of a manager means. It doesn't mean that you have to be 6 feet tall, you have to be good looking, charming, you should have the abs and all. It is not about like that. The thing is that a very good physique, a healthy person, you should be a healthy person. That's what physical quality of a manager means. Then the thing is that mental ability. Mental ability is about the ability to understand different situations, then learn from those different situations, and also provide solution to that main problems or whatever situation is about. Or he should be able to make judgments over it. So that's what the mental ability is. Then the thing is about the moral. quality. The moral quality is that he should be energetic, then he should have kind of enthusiasm, he should be initiative in the sense that he should always motivate his employees or his subordinates to initiate an activity, to start an activity. Then the thing is that loyalty should be there, he should be trustworthy, loyalty should be there, then tact and dignity should also be there. Then the thing is about the education. Education is about the general acquaintance with matters. The thing is that it's not just that whatever he has learned from the book, but apart from that, the way he behaves with the others, there is a kind of learning from that. That should also be there. That's what his education is about. It's not just the bookish matter, but when a person is before you, you know that how educated he is. That's what the presentable quality is about. That's what education is about, which means that it's general acquaintance. Then the thing is that the technical. Technical is about his performance, that what his skill is about. The technical skill is about. That's what the technical is about, peculiar to the function being performed. The thing is that if he is a manager to the production department, then he should be perfect in production. His technical, the techniques related to production, he should have that quality well enough. Then the thing is that experience. Experience, of course, that is arising from work after year, gain experience. That's what experience is about. So these are the six important qualities that a manager should always possess. Okay, so the first has been discussed. So here what we discuss is about the entry files approach to the administrative management. The thing is that he had divided into three. First is the managerial qualities and training. Second is the general principles of management. Third is the elements of management. In that, the managerial qualities and training has already been discussed. Now we can move on to the general principles of management. Coming to the general principles of management, these are the basic and the most important principles of management. These are considered the most important, and these principles are followed by the modern day managers as well. So these are the basic guidelines how to supervise, how to organize, how to manage an organization. So there are 14 important principles of management, and these 14 principles of management, you people should learn it thoroughly. Okay, do not, if you have any confusion, do stop me there and do ask the question. Okay, wherever it is. The thing is that here the use of technical terms will be the technical is not very complicated, but the thing is that uh, what are required for the this management terms that will be used. So when you're writing for the exam also, this is very important. Here you cannot change the heading if the division of labor is about specialization. You cannot say that it is specialization. That will not go. You should give the heading it as division of labor itself. So this is how important this general principles of management is about. So do listen it thoroughly, learn it thoroughly, and understand each and every concept. So coming to this, moving on to this, we can say that the 14 important principles of management starts with first the division of labor, second is the authority and responsibility, third is the discipline, fourth is the unity of command, fifth is the unity of direction, sixth is the subordination of individual to general interests, seventh is the remuneration of personnel. Then eighth is about centralization and decentralization. Ninth is the scalar chain. Tenth is the order. 11th is the equity. Then 12th is the stability of the tenure. Then 13th is the initiative. And 14th is the esprit de corps. So these 14 principles we'll discuss in detail. I don't think today we'll be able to finish it. So for today, I think this was just enough. So What all
Thank you,
discussed
Miss.
has been discussed today? Do you have any doubts in those? Or in yesterday's portion, do you have any doubts? In Linguist, I have already shared the link of our class, so the recorded class. So do listen to it so that you people can revise it. So if you have any doubts, do ask whenever, at whatever time. I don't mind explaining to you anytime. But please do
Okay, teacher.
go through this. What,
YouTube
what?
pare. YouTube.
You want it in the YouTube.
Yeah, I guess that would be better and easy to
Okay,
access.
fine.
ടീച്ചർ ഇന്ന് വരെ എടുത്തതിന്റെ PPT ഒന്ന് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യും.
Okay, I'll share this PPT. But the thing is that in this PPT, the coming portions are also there. Whatever learned means whatever has been taught, you just refer.
ഓക്കെ മിസ്.
So till here, is it clear?
Yes, Miss.
Okay, fine. So just give me your attendance, just a sec. Advait is there. Ajay Krishna,
പ്രസന്റ് ടീച്ചർ.
Akhil K, Akshay Krishna
Present,
P,
teacher. Present, teacher.
all of Chase are there.
Teacher, are there present? Network problem.
Okay. Amarnath could not join, right? Yeah, I tried adding him, but
Present.
okay. Lind is there.
Present, teacher.
Diljit, Gokul,
Present. Present, miss. Present.
Vishnu, Dilip,
Present. Google present.
only one is absent. 32 are there. The one who is absent.
No delay.
Vishnu is present.
Vishnu, Dilip is present. Yes.
Present, present.
So who is absent?
Yes, he is there.
Niket is there. Okay, Pranav K.
Present, miss.
So only Pranav K is absent. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
താങ്ക് യു ടീച്ചർ.